Hey everyone, welcome to the channel where we love to talk about movies. Welcome especially if you're new. If you enjoy talking about movies and staying up to speed on what's in theaters and what's worth checking out, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a review. Alright, with that we're going to get into today's review, which is for Don't Worry Darling. I just got back from the theater, so let's dive on it. So in this movie, a 1950s housewife living with her husband in a utopian experimental community begins to worry that his glamorous company could be hiding disturbing secrets. So for this review, we're going to actually get into spoilers, but first I'll give just kind of my overall grade for the film and keep it spoiler free. And then when we get into the five kind of takeaways that I have from the movie and five things that stood out, those will get into spoiler territory. So, still in non-spoiler realm though right now. Overall, I give this a letter grade of an A. It's a movie that I enjoyed quite a bit and definitely worked from my point of view. I could see that it's maybe a movie that doesn't work for everybody. I guess I'm not terribly surprised at the relatively lower Rotten Tomatoes score. I think last I checked it was down at like 39%. But for me, it came together in the end, and I think it's really just a visually stunning and well acted mystery that kind of keeps you guessing throughout the film and wondering what's actually going on. But then it also dives into kind of important topics that, like misogyny in our culture and what exactly that means. And I think, yeah, overall, it worked as a film, and it's one that I enjoyed. So those are kind of my high level thoughts. Now we'll kind of get into spoilers. So spoiler warning here. If you haven't seen the film, I definitely recommend going to check it out. But from here on out, we'll be getting into spoiler specific stuff. So for five things that stood out to me in the film, the first and foremost was how they did the reveal. So like the first half, at least half of the film, probably the first two-thirds of the film, you're really left wondering what exactly is going on. You're just as lost as the main character. And when they finally give that reveal, it's done in such a like I love how they did it because it took me like half a minute to a minute to just realize that they were giving us the reveal because they slip it in there so subtly. And so I love that it went from her in the psych ward to then a modern day hospital room where it's a very similar setting. Like they're both kind of they've got similar elements, but it took my brain just long enough to realize like, oh wait, those are like 21st century computer screens that we're seeing there. And wait, she's now the surgeon and like my brain just did a double take and I love it when a film can do that for me. So that was I thought done beautifully in the film. And then second point that stood out to me was the complexity of Jack's character and especially what we learned in the reveal that, this was his choice that he's putting the main character through all of this. And so he's putting his wife into a simulation because he sees that she's working all the time, and from his point of view, he's trying to do something that makes her happy. So it's not the right thing to do to force somebody to live in a simulation and make them for like what you think will make them happy, force them to that. Like that's taking away her free will at that point, which you just can't do for people. So I get it, like, but it's like that he went about it in the wrong way, but he was coming from a good place. Like he just wanted her to be happy, and it was costing him. Like he'd have to go out during the day, and he's like, it's not like I have to go through a lot just to keep you in here, and I don't get to sit in here all day. So you definitely kind of felt for him, but it was great to see kind of that complexity in the character, especially in the third act, because he doesn't necessarily come across as all that complex up until then. But the third point that stood out to me was the visuals. There's just a lot of like the hallucination and kind of dream sequences I thought were very beautifully captured on film, and I thought that elevated the film overall. And then the fourth point I thought was the kind of the different takes by the different women in the film on their situation. And I thought all of them kind of on that note, I thought all of them did a really good job of acting, and especially Florence Pugh. I thought she was yeah, she really sold her part for just having no idea what's going on and just kind of approaching that mental breakdown state. But as far as all the different takes by the different women, and like that really comes across by the acting behind them. But the like Florence Pugh's character, her reaction is to reject this. She's like, I don't like, I'm not gonna just go with something that was forced on me, and that's a very valid response. But then you have Olivia Wilde's character who is choosing to be in that simulation because she lost her children, and here she can get her children. And even though it's set up as a very misogynistic like society, she's still choosing that and would rather be here than in the real world without her children. And then the third kind of character that we see a bit into, although this one isn't as like explicitly said, is the Gemma Chan character, and she's the wife of the Chris Pine character. And my take on it was that she was in the simulation against her will, but she had kind of been resigned to that fact. So I think she was just making the most of it and not really, yeah, and recognizing that she didn't really have any other options, so she wants to kind of keep the waters calm. But in the end, she kind of has a change of heart, and she's like, I've got enough of this, and that's when she kills Chris Pine's character. That's kind of my take on it, although I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has a different take on how that played out. But yeah, it was, I thought it was well done that you've got different takes on this very complex sort of situation that the people found themselves in. And then the last up, I thought was the last point that stood out was definitely the study of like misogyny and everything that gets wrapped up in that. Because yeah, the whole film, you're like, you don't know that like it could very well have taken place in the 50s, and it was, yeah, it's honestly a little hard to watch, and I'm just thankful that that is no longer the norm. I think we still have a very long way to go. Like misogyny is still very present in society, but I'm just, yeah, thankful that it's not to that level. But yeah, that, so it was definitely hard to watch the film kind of throughout that. And then it was interesting then to see that, well, that isn't really the 50s. This is now a current simulation, and people are deliberately choosing that from the belief that it'll make the women happy. And it was, yeah, it's just an interesting sort of thought that the movie presents, and I think it's an important one, because it's not to say that that sort of lifestyle isn't for some people, and that nobody should choose that. It's much more so that people should be given the choice, and we shouldn't be just stereotyping people that way. So this is definitely getting a bit more kind of, I don't know if political is the right word, but it's, yeah, I generally try not to get into all of this heavy topics in my reviews, but I thought that this movie, like, that's such a core part of this movie, and I thought it pulled it off very well. Like, it wasn't in your face, like, feministic, and I think that while in your face feministic still has a good message to tell, it's sometimes hard to hear when it's that way. So I thought that the message of this film was easy to follow and easy to hear and important to tell. So yeah, those are the 5 points that stood out to me for the film. Yeah, wrapping up again, it was a letter grade of an A. I definitely recommend that you go check it out. If you enjoyed the movie, though, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, if you like this review, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next review.